Welcome to the Extremely Boring Stories. Today we listening. If you're in medieval time, why you wouldn't have survived in medieval times? If you like our videos, please subscribe our channel and comment where to you watch our videos. Born already behind, the first dangerous day of life. Arrival was the first test. You begin your life not in safety, but in uncertainty. In medieval times, being born was not a celebration followed by rest and recovery. It was a dangerous crossing. If you survived it, that was already unusual. If you did not, your absence would barely be recorded. No birth certificate, no marker, often no name. You were born at home. Always at home. A single room, perhaps shared with animals, siblings, tools, and stored grain. The floor is packed dirt. The air smells of smoke, damp straw, and human bodies that have not bathed in weeks. Light comes from a small fire or a narrow opening in the wall. This is where you arrive. The woman giving birth, your mother, is exhausted long before labor begins. Pregnancy itself is risky. She has worked throughout it, lifting water, grinding grain, tending animals, walking long distances. There is no concept of rest for pregnancy. There is no medical monitoring. If something is wrong, no one knows until it is too late. When labor starts, there is no doctor. No hospital. Only other women from the village, some with experience, some with superstition, all with limited tools. Hands are unwashed. Knowledge is passed down by memory, not science. If complications arise, they cannot be corrected. If the baby is positioned poorly, if the cord is wrapped, if bleeding begins, there is little anyone can do. You might not breathe when you emerge. If you do, it might be shallow and weak. Many infants die within minutes. Others within days. Medieval families expected this. They named children late, sometimes weeks after birth, because naming too early invited grief. If you are born in winter, your chances drop further. Cold kills quietly. Newborns cannot regulate body temperature. Blankets are thin. Firewood is precious. If you grow cold, there is no incubator to save you. Your mother may not survive either. Childbirth is one of the leading causes of death for women. Infection is common. Bleeding is fatal. If she dies, you are likely to follow. Without breastfeeding, most infants do not last long. Even if she lives, milk is not guaranteed. Malnutrition affects supply. Stress affects the body. Wet nurses exist, but only for wealthier families. Poor households rely entirely on one woman's ability to feed multiple mouths. You might be fed animal milk too early. This often leads to sickness. Diarrhea is deadly for infants. Dehydration kills quietly and quickly. This is not neglect. This is normal life. You are wrapped tightly, often bound stiffly to shape your body. Movement is restricted. The belief is that limbs must be trained to grow straight. This can cause breathing problems, infections, and weakness. But it is done with care, because everyone believes it helps. You are baptized quickly, not out of joy, but fear. If you die unbaptized, your soul may not be safe. Priests are sometimes summoned urgently, even in the middle of the night, because death is expected, not surprising. If you survive the first week, you are still not safe. The first year is the most dangerous. Up to half of all children die before age 5. Many before age 1. Fevers, coughs, infections, contaminated food, any of these can end your life. There is no clear understanding of germs. Illness is blamed on bad air, imbalance, or divine will. Your cries are not always answered immediately. Not because you are unloved, but because adults are busy surviving themselves. Food must be prepared. Animals must be fed. Fire must be maintained. Work cannot stop because a baby cries. You sleep where there is space, often in the same bed as adults. This is warm, but dangerous. Smothering happens. Rolling over happens. It is another quiet cause of death that no one fully understands. If you are born weak, deformed, or sickly, expectations are low. Survival is uncertain. Resources are limited. Families cannot afford to invest hope where death is likely. If you are born weak, deformed, or sickly, expectations are low. Survival is uncertain. Resources are limited. Families cannot afford to invest hope where death is likely. And yet, if you live, you are not celebrated loudly. Survival is assumed to be temporary. The future is not imagined yet. At this stage, you are not an individual. You are a fragile possibility. Your value will come later, if you reach it. And this is only the first day. You have not yet faced hunger, labor, disease, cold, or law. You have not yet learned how quickly accidents happen, how easily infections spread, how thin the line between life and death really is. For now, you breathe. Barely. Bread that killed, hunger, grain, and silent poison. The food that kept you alive, and slowly destroyed you. You wake up hungry. Not the sharp hunger of a missed meal, but the dull, constant pressure that lives in your body every day. In medieval life, hunger is not an emergency. It is a background condition. Bread is what keeps you alive. It is also what might kill you. Bread is not a side dish. It is not optional. For most medieval people, bread provides more than half of daily calories. Meat is rare. Vegetables are seasonal. Dairy is unreliable. Bread is what fills the stomach, keeps the body moving, and allows work to continue. If the bread fails, everything fails. But the bread you eat is not the bread you imagine. It is dark, dense, coarse, and heavy. It smells of smoke and grain husks. It often contains bits of stone from the mill, ground in accidentally as millstones wear down. Over time, these tiny fragments grind your teeth away. Medieval skeletons often show teeth worn flat by middle age. Still, you eat it. Grain is life. Fields are planted carefully, harvested slowly, stored anxiously. A single bad harvest can mean death months later. People count grain not in abundance, but in time. How many weeks will this last? When harvests are good, bread is plentiful. When harvests fail, bread becomes thinner, mixed with whatever can stretch it, peas, beans, bark, even grass seeds. This is not experimentation. It is desperation. But even in good years, bread hides dangers you cannot see. Grain storage is difficult. Medieval barns are damp. Rats get in. Mold grows easily. And one mold, in particular, thrives in rye, ergot. Ergot looks harmless at first, dark growths replacing normal grain kernels. It is not removed consistently, because cleaning grain thoroughly takes time and labor. People are tired. They are hungry. They grind what they have. When ergot is baked into bread, it does not disappear. You eat it. At first, nothing seems wrong. Then strange symptoms begin. Burning sensations in the hands and feet. Muscle spasms. Hallucinations. Fingers turning black as blood vessels constrict. This is ergotism, sometimes called Saint Anthony's fire. You do not know this name. You only know pain. Some people dance uncontrollably. Others feel insects crawling under their skin. Some lose limbs. Some die quietly. Entire villages can be affected at once, all eating from the same poisoned grain. No one understands the cause. Priests preach. Doctors guess. People pray. The bread keeps being eaten. Bread also carries disease in quieter ways. Flour is mixed with water that may be contaminated. Baking temperatures vary. Some loaves are undercooked. Bacteria survive. Diarrheic diseases spread easily, especially among children. But stopping is not an option. Without bread, you starve faster. So you eat. Bread is rationed carefully. In many households, portions are fixed. Adults doing heavy labor eat more. Children eat less. The elderly eat last. This is not cruelty. It is triage. Women often eat less than men. Not by rule, but by habit. They give food to children first. Over time, this weakens them. Pregnancy becomes riskier. Childbirth becomes deadlier. But bread remains central. Baking is labor-intensive. Ovens are rare. Many villages share a communal oven owned by a lord. You must pay to use it. If you cannot, you bake poorly at home or eat cold dough. Bread becomes a tool of control. Failure to bake correctly wastes grain. Waste is dangerous. A ruined loaf can mean hunger later. Anxiety surrounds every step: milling, mixing, baking, storing. And yet, bread is also comfort. You dip it in broth. You soak it in wine or ale. You chew it slowly after long workdays. It fills the stomach and quiets the mind. But the body remembers. Long-term malnutrition weakens immunity. Infections linger. Wounds heal slowly. Teeth rot. Bones thin. But these changes are gradual. They feel normal because everyone around you looks the same. Only famine reveals how thin survival really is. When crops fail, due to rain, frost, war, or disease, bread disappears. Prices rise immediately. The poor cannot compete. Grain is hoarded, stored, guarded. You eat substitutes now. Thin soups, roots, anything that fills space in the stomach. Bread becomes smaller, then rarer, then gone. People travel in search of grain. Many die on the road. Others return with nothing. During famine years, bread kills differently. Not through poison, but through absence. Children die first, then the old, then the weak. Records show spikes in death that do not name causes. They simply mark numbers. Hunger does not leave neat evidence. When bread returns, people survive again, but thinner, weaker, changed. They remember. That memory shapes behavior. Hoarding, anxiety, fear of waste. Even in good years, people eat cautiously, because they know how fast bread can vanish. You live your life measured in loaves. But here is the quiet truth. Even when bread is present, even when stomachs are full, the danger has not left. Because the bread that keeps you alive may still be carrying something unseen. Something burning. Something waiting. Water that wasn't safe, drinking, disease, and daily risk. The thirst that never felt safe. You are thirsty long before you are hungry. In medieval life, thirst arrives quietly, then stays. You wake with a dry mouth. You work with it. You sleep with it. Water is everywhere, rivers, wells, rain, but safe water is rare. And the danger is not obvious. It has no color, no smell, no warning. You drink anyway. You have no choice. Water is drawn from the nearest source. A well in the village center. A stream at the edge of fields. A river downstream from other settlements you cannot see. The water looks clear. That is enough. There is no concept of bacteria. No understanding of contamination. People judge water by taste, temperature, and tradition. If it has always been used, it is assumed to be safe. But that assumption kills people slowly. Wells are shallow. Waste seeps in. Animal droppings wash down with rain. Latrines are dug too close because land is limited and planning is minimal. In cities, waste is thrown into streets, drains, or directly into rivers, the same rivers people draw drinking water from. You may know the water tastes off, sometimes. But thirst is stronger than caution. Boiling water is rare. Firewood is expensive. Time is limited. Water is usually consumed raw. Children drink it freely. Infants are given watered-down milk mixed with it. Sickness follows patterns no one understands. One household falls ill, then another, then a whole street. People weaken. They vomit. They lose fluids. Diarrhea spreads rapidly, especially in summer. Children dehydrate first. Many do not recover. Adults call it a bad season. They do not connect it to water. Instead, blame settles on weather, air, God, or fate. Priests pray. Doctors prescribe bloodletting or herbs. Nothing stops the spread. Cities are worse. Urban populations grow faster than infrastructure. Streets are narrow. Drainage is poor. Rain washes filth into water sources. Wells become contaminated silently. The richer households may have private wells, but even these are vulnerable. You might live near a river and believe flowing water is safer. Sometimes it is. Often it is not. Upstream, someone washes animal carcasses. Someone empties waste. Someone dumps refuse. You never see them. You only drink the result. Water also carries parasites. Worms enter the body unnoticed. They steal nutrients slowly. Weakness sets in over months or years. Children grow slowly. Bellies swell. No one knows why. People accept chronic illness as normal. They say some bodies are strong and some are not. Water also shapes daily routines. Fetching it is labor. Mostly women and children carry it, heavy buckets, multiple trips, long distances. Spilled water is wasted effort. Every drop matters. Storage is primitive. Water sits in open containers. Dust falls in. Insects land. Animals drink from it if they can reach. Still, it is used. In winter, water freezes. Holes must be broken in ice. Streams slow. Wells are harder to access. Thirst becomes sharper. Illness spreads differently. Respiratory diseases rise, but contaminated water never truly stops being dangerous. Because even when water looks clean, it remembers everything that touched it. Alcohol becomes a partial solution. Ale and small beer are safer than water because brewing involves boiling. This kills many pathogens. As a result, even children drink weak beer daily. It is not intoxication, it is survival. But alcohol has limits. Brewing requires grain. Grain may be scarce. During famine, beer disappears. Water returns. Wine is safer but expensive. Reserved for the wealthy. The poor rely on what they can reach. Milk is not a solution either. It spoils quickly. Animals carry disease. Milk is often diluted with water, bringing the danger back. So water remains unavoidable. Outbreaks happen without warning. A single contaminated well can kill dozens. Whole neighborhoods weaken at once. Productivity drops. Fields go untended. Hunger follows illness. But still, no one closes the well. There is nowhere else to go. Some people notice patterns. Certain wells are avoided. Certain streams are feared. Folklore develops. Bad water is blamed on spirits or curses. People leave offerings. They pray. They keep drinking. Medical texts exist, but knowledge spreads slowly. Even educated physicians lack tools to prove causes. Without microscopes, bacteria remain invisible enemies. So death becomes routine. Infant mortality remains high. Childhood sickness is expected. Survival feels random. You may live for years drinking contaminated water and suffer no obvious illness. Then one summer, your body cannot handle it anymore. Fever comes. Weakness follows. Recovery is uncertain. And when you die, your water source continues to be used. Because survival depends on denial. This is the quiet cruelty of medieval water. It does not always kill quickly. It weakens communities over generations. It shapes bodies that are shorter, thinner, more vulnerable. It normalizes sickness so thoroughly that health itself feels unusual. You adapt. You accept stomach pain. You accept fatigue. You accept that children die. And because everyone around you lives the same way, it feels normal. But pause here for a moment. Imagine knowing that the thing you must drink every day, the thing that keeps you alive for hours at a time, might also be the reason your body fails you years later. Cold houses and long winters, living without warmth. When cold was a constant companion. You do not notice the cold all at once. It settles in slowly, quietly, until it becomes part of you. In medieval life, winter is not a season you endure for a few months. It is a condition that shapes the entire year. Even in summer, people prepare for cold. Every decision, what to grow, what to store, how much to burn, where to sleep, is made with winter in mind. Because once the cold arrives, there is no escape. Your house does not protect you the way modern homes do. Walls are thin, wood, wattle and daub, rough stone if you are lucky. Gaps let wind through. Roofs leak. Floors are bare earth or rough planks that draw warmth out of your feet. There is no insulation. No glass windows for most people. Openings are covered with cloth, animal hide, or wooden shutters. Light is sacrificed to keep out the wind. And still, the cold comes in. Fire is your only defense. But fire is expensive. Wood must be gathered, chopped, carried, dried. In many regions, forests are controlled by lords. Cutting too much can bring punishment. You ration fuel carefully, saving it for cooking in the coldest hours. At night, the fire dies down. Embers glow faintly. The room temperature drops quickly. Breath becomes visible. Frost forms on interior walls. You sleep fully clothed, often in the same clothes you worked in all day. Blankets are few, heavy, and damp. Straw mattresses trap moisture. Cold seeps up from below. You wake stiff, aching, fingers numb. Children cry in their sleep. Elderly bodies struggle more. Joints swell. Coughs deepen. Respiratory illness spreads easily in closed, smoky rooms where ventilation is poor but doors must stay shut. Smoke never fully leaves the house. Fireplaces lack chimneys in many homes. Smoke drifts upward and escapes through holes in the roof. It stings the eyes, blackens lungs over time, but letting smoke out also lets heat escape. So people tolerate it. Your eyes water constantly in winter. Breathing feels heavier. You spend most of your life cold. Not freezing, most days, but never truly warm. Warmth is a brief moment near the fire, when your hands thaw and sensation returns. You rotate positions with others, sharing heat fairly, because no one can stay close for long. Animals are brought inside during winter. Not for comfort, but survival. Their body heat matters. Chickens, goats, even cows may share space with people. The smell is strong. Disease risk increases. But warmth is warmth. Winter clothing helps, but it is limited. Wool is common, but coarse. Linen underlayers exist but are thin. Everything gets damp. Snow melts into fabric. There are no waterproof materials. Once clothes are wet, they stay wet for days. Drying clothes requires fire. Fire requires fuel. Fuel is rationed. So you stay damp. Frostbite happens quietly. Fingers and toes lose feeling. Skin cracks. Infections follow. Some people lose digits. Others simply adapt, living with damaged hands for the rest of their lives. Work does not stop for winter. Fields may rest, but animals still need care. Water must be fetched even when wells freeze. Ice must be broken daily. Tools are harder to grip. Mistakes happen more often. Cold slows bodies. It also slows thinking. Accidents increase. Injuries heal slowly. Food becomes heavier in winter. More bread. More preserved meat if available. Less fresh produce. Vitamin deficiencies worsen. Immune systems weaken. Illness finds easier entry. Winter diseases are not dramatic. They linger. Coughs last months. Fevers come and go. Many people simply fade. Older adults who never fully recover their strength after a harsh season. Death in winter is common enough that it barely surprises anyone. Burials are harder. Frozen ground resists digging. Bodies may be stored temporarily, waiting for thaw. Churches fill with the smell of cold stone and damp wool during funeral services. The psychological weight of winter is heavy. Days are short. Darkness arrives early. Candles are expensive. Most households sit in dim light, conserving resources. Storytelling becomes common, not for entertainment, but to pass time and distract from discomfort. You learn patience. Winter teaches waiting. Waiting for dawn. Waiting for warmth. Waiting for spring. But spring does not arrive suddenly. Cold lingers. Frost kills early plantings. Hunger stretches longer than expected. The hungry gap between winter stores and new harvests is the most dangerous time of year. Cold and hunger overlap. Your body weakens just as food runs out. This is when many die. Yet people survive year after year. They layer clothing. They share beds. They block drafts with cloth. They burn dung when wood is scarce. They learn where to sit, how to move slowly, how to conserve energy. Children grow up understanding cold as normal. They stop complaining early. They learn to work through numbness. Warmth becomes a memory more than a constant. And because everyone lives this way, it does not feel extraordinary. But consider this carefully. Imagine never being fully warm, not for weeks, not for months, not even indoors. Imagine cold shaping how you sleep, how you think, how long you live. Imagine knowing that one harsh winter, just one colder than usual season, could quietly end your life without violence, without warning, simply by wearing your body down. As winter settles in again, fires burning lower each night, supplies thinning, and daylight shrinking, you pull your cloak tighter and wonder. Work that broke the body, ordinary labor and early death. Section 1. A life measured in strain. You begin working long before your body is ready. In medieval life, work is not something you grow into slowly. It arrives early, quietly, and without negotiation. By the time you can walk steadily, you are already useful. By the time you can lift, you are expected to carry. Childhood is short not because people wish it so, but because survival requires hands, many hands, every day. There is no concept of a working age. There is only ability. You wake before sunrise. You work until light fades. This rhythm does not change with weather, illness, or exhaustion. Work is not a choice. It is the price of staying alive one more day. If you live in the countryside, your labor follows the seasons. Plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting. Each task demands repetitive motion, bending, lifting, pulling, pushing. Tools are heavy and poorly balanced. Handles rub skin raw. Blisters open. Calluses form. Infections set in. There are no gloves. No supportive footwear. Shoes, if you have them, are thin and ill-fitting. Many people work barefoot. Cold stiffens joints. Heat drains strength. Rain soaks clothing, adding weight to every movement. You learn to ignore pain. Pain is constant. It settles into your back first. Then your knees. Then your shoulders. By your 20s, your spine already shows wear. By your 30s, movement is slower. By your 40s, if you reach them, your body feels older than its years. Skeletons tell this story clearly. Archaeologists find compressed vertebrae, arthritic joints, healed fractures that were never properly set. Bodies adapted to strain by hardening and breaking. If you are a man, you plow fields, haul loads, build walls, cut timber. If you are a woman, you do much of the same, plus grinding grain, carrying water, tending children, cooking, cleaning, spinning, weaving. Domestic labor is not lighter. It is simply less visible. Grinding grain alone can take hours every day. Kneeling, rocking heavy stones back and forth. It destroys knees and wrists. Over years, joints deform. But bread must be made. There is no rest day for exhaustion. Illness might slow you briefly, but only severe sickness stops work entirely, and that often leads to death. If you cannot work, you cannot eat. Injuries are common and often fatal. A cut from a sickle becomes infected. A fall from a ladder breaks bones that never heal correctly. A crushed hand means the end of usefulness. There is no compensation, no safety net. If you become disabled, your survival depends entirely on family charity. Some villages support their injured. Others cannot afford to. Begging becomes the only option. Workplaces are everywhere and nowhere. Fields, forests, workshops, kitchens, roads. None are designed for safety. Fire burns skin. Tools slip. Animals kick and bite. Accidents happen daily. Death from work is rarely dramatic. It is slow. Repeated strain weakens the body's defenses. Infections take hold. Hernias develop. Internal damage accumulates. People waste away without clear cause. Women face an additional burden. Pregnancy does not stop labor. Many work until the day of birth, then return to tasks shortly after. Pelvic injuries are common. Chronic pain follows. Prolapse, tearing, and long-term disability are widespread but unnamed. And still, work continues. Craft workers fare little better. Blacksmiths inhale smoke and metal particles. Potters breathe dust. Tanners handle chemicals that burn skin and lungs. Bakers work in heat that exhausts and dehydrates. Each trade carries its own quiet damage. But these are skilled jobs. They offer some stability. Agricultural laborers have none. Harvest time is especially brutal. Long hours, heavy loads, short deadlines. A missed harvest means starvation later. Bodies are pushed beyond limits. People collapse in fields and are carried home, or left until evening. Sleep is shallow. Muscles never fully recover. Nutrition is insufficient to rebuild tissue. The body is always slightly behind its own damage. Children watch and learn. They grow into the same patterns. By adolescence, they move like older adults. Their growth is stunted. Their bones dense but brittle. Old age is rare not because people do not want it, but because bodies do not last that long under this strain. Those who reach later years often do so bent, stiff, and in pain. They contribute where they can, watching children, repairing tools, sharing knowledge. But they are vulnerable. One injury, one illness, one harsh season can end everything. Work also shapes identity. You are known by what you do. Plowman, weaver, miller, maid. Your worth is measured in output. When output falls, so does status. There is dignity in labor, but no romance. Work is repetitive, boring, necessary. It grinds bodies down slowly, evenly, without pause. And because everyone works this way, it feels natural. No one questions whether life should hurt this much. But pause here. Imagine waking every day knowing that the very act of surviving, lifting, carrying, bending, was quietly shortening your life. Imagine knowing there would be no retirement, no easing, no recovery, only work until your body failed entirely. As you straighten your aching back at the end of another long day, muscles trembling, breath shallow, you might wonder. Medicine that couldn't heal, illness without answers. When knowledge stopped at the skin. You get sick long before anyone knows what to do about it. In medieval life, illness is not an interruption. It is an expectation. Bodies fail often, slowly, and without clear reason. Fevers come and go. Pain appears and settles in. Some people recover. Some do not. No one can reliably explain why. Medicine exists, but it does not heal in the way you imagine. There are doctors, yes. But most people never see one. Physicians are expensive, trained in universities, and concentrated in cities. Rural communities rely on local healers, midwives, monks, or whoever has experience and confidence. Experience matters more than accuracy. The dominant medical theory is ancient, the four humors. Blood, phlegm, black bile, yellow bile. Health is balance. Illness is imbalance. Symptoms are not clues to causes, they are signs of excess. A fever means too much heat. A cough means too much phlegm. Weakness means imbalance somewhere unseen. So treatment aims to rebalance, not to cure. You are bled. Bloodletting is common. Leeches are applied. Veins are opened. The idea is simple. Remove excess blood, restore harmony. Sometimes the patient improves, often because the illness was mild anyway. Other times, the patient weakens further. But the method persists because it fits the theory. Herbs are used extensively. Some help. Many do nothing. A few are harmful. Dosage is uncertain. Preparation varies. What works for one person may kill another. There are no clinical trials. No controlled observation. Knowledge spreads through texts copied by hand, often with errors. Old authorities are trusted more than new observation. If Galen said it centuries ago, it must be true. Doctors observe symptoms closely, but without tools. No microscopes. No thermometers. No understanding of infection. Internal organs are mysterious. Dissection is rare and controversial. So illness remains largely invisible. Pain is treated with alcohol, herbs, prayer, or endurance. Surgery exists, but it is brutal. No anesthesia. No antiseptic. Survival depends on speed and luck. Amputation is common for severe injury or infection. Many die from shock or blood loss. Those who survive live with permanent disability. Infections are the greatest enemy. A small cut can kill you. Dirt enters. Pus forms. Fever follows. Red streaks climb the limb. There is no antibiotic. No way to stop the spread. Doctors may cauterize the wound, burn it closed. This sometimes helps. Often it does not. People fear bad air. Miasma. Smell is associated with disease. Rotting matter is blamed. Sometimes avoiding filth does reduce illness, but no one understands why. So efforts focus on smell, not sanitation. Masks are filled with herbs. Rooms are fumigated. Windows are opened or sealed depending on belief. None of this reliably stops disease. Plagues come. Some illnesses are sudden and violent. Others are slow and wasting. Tuberculosis consumes lungs over years. People cough blood, grow thin, fade gradually. No one knows how it spreads. Families continue living together, caring for the sick, breathing the same air. Leprosy carries immense fear. Those diagnosed are often isolated, not because it spreads easily, but because it is visible. Skin lesions mark the body. Society responds with exclusion rather than treatment. Mental illness is barely recognized. Melancholy, hysteria, madness, these are moral or spiritual problems, not medical ones. Treatment ranges from prayer to confinement. Some sufferers are cared for gently. Others are punished. Children suffer quietly. Many die from diseases that are minor today: measles, whooping cough, dysentery. Survival feels random. Some children pass through illness unharmed. Others die suddenly. Parents expect this. Grief is real, but hope is cautious. Pregnancy-related illness is especially dangerous. Puerperal fever kills women after childbirth. Doctors unknowingly spread infection between patients. Midwives reuse tools. Hands are not washed. No one connects the pattern. When death comes, it is often accepted as God's will. Religion fills the gap medicine cannot. Saints are prayed to for specific illnesses. Pilgrimages are made. Relics are touched. Sometimes recovery follows. Faith strengthens belief. Medicine and religion coexist without conflict. Both lack answers. Records show treatments that seem cruel now: purging, vomiting, starvation diets. These are logical within the framework of balance. Remove excess. Cleanse the body. But the body weakens further. And yet, some people do recover. The human body is resilient. Many illnesses pass on their own. When recovery happens after treatment, the treatment is credited. When death follows, fate is blamed. So methods persist. The average person understands illness as part of life. There is little expectation of cure. Survival is hoped for, not guaranteed. You manage sickness by adjusting work, resting briefly if possible, and returning to labor as soon as strength allows. There is no long-term care. No rehabilitation. Old injuries ache forever. Chronic pain is normalized. Doctors themselves are limited by fear. Making bold claims is dangerous. Failure damages reputation. So treatments are conservative, rooted in tradition. Progress is slow. Centuries pass with little improvement in outcomes. And still, people seek help. They want explanations. They want reassurance. They want someone to say this suffering has meaning. Medicine provides structure, if not solutions. But imagine this. Imagine being sick, truly sick, and knowing that no one around you understands what is happening inside your body. Imagine submitting to treatments that might weaken you further, because doing nothing feels worse. Imagine watching others recover and die unpredictably, without pattern, without warning, without lessons learned. Fire everywhere, cities built to burn. Section 1. Living inside a spark. You do not fear fire because it is dramatic. You fear it because it is ordinary. In medieval cities, fire is everywhere. It cooks your food, heats your room, lights your nights, powers your work. Without fire, life stops. And because it is everywhere, it is always close to disaster. Your city is built to burn. Most buildings are made of wood. Timber frames, wooden floors, wooden roofs covered with thatch or shingles. Houses lean toward each other, packed tightly inside defensive walls. Streets are narrow. Upper floors jut outward until neighbors can almost touch across the road. Fire spreads easily here, quickly, quietly. Inside your home, there is an open flame every day. Candles, oil lamps, hearth fires. Sparks jump when wood shifts. Embers fall unnoticed. There are no smoke detectors. No fire extinguishers. No organized fire brigade. When fire starts, it is already late. You cook indoors. Smoke blackens walls and ceilings. Ash settles into cracks. Floors are strewn with rushes, dried reeds laid down for warmth and comfort. Over time, they collect grease, food scraps, and dust. They are highly flammable. Still, they remain. You carry fire through the streets in open torches. You heat pitch, boil water, melt metal. Crafts require flame. Bakers fire ovens that stay hot for days. Brewers boil vats. Blacksmiths work roaring forges. Every trade adds heat. Wind moves freely through the city. It funnels through streets, feeds flames, carries sparks from roof to roof. One careless moment can become a city-wide disaster. And it happens often. Most medieval cities burn at least once. Many burn repeatedly. Fires are so common they are barely surprising. Records mention them briefly. A great fire this year. Then life continues. When a fire starts, alarms are crude. Church bells ring. People shout. Buckets are passed hand to hand from wells or rivers. Water splashes uselessly against walls of flame. Fire moves faster than people. If your house catches fire, you grab what you can carry. Clothing, tools, children, nothing else. Furniture is left behind. Stored grain burns. Winter supplies vanish. Sometimes you are trapped. Staircases collapse quickly. Roofs cave in. Smoke suffocates before flames reach you. Many die without burns, lungs filled with smoke. Those who escape gather in open spaces, churchyards, fields outside the walls. They watch the city burn because there is nothing else to do. Fire also destroys livelihoods. Workshops burn. Tools melt. Goods vanish. There is no insurance. Recovery depends on charity, guild support, or personal savings, if any exist. The poor suffer most. They live in the most crowded areas, with the weakest structures. Fires start there easily and spread outward. After a fire, rebuilding begins immediately. Often, nothing changes. Wood is cheaper than stone. Speed matters more than safety. Houses are rebuilt in the same places, the same way. Thatched roofs return. Streets remain narrow. Because fire is accepted as part of urban life. Some cities try to regulate. Bans on thatch. Curfews on open flames. Stone construction encouraged. But enforcement is weak. Cost is high. Need outweighs caution. Night is especially dangerous. Candles tip over. People fall asleep near hearths. Alcohol dulls attention. One spark smolders unnoticed until it finds air. By the time flames are visible, escape is the only option. Fire also spreads fear beyond its damage. People sleep lightly, listening for bells. They smell smoke constantly and learn to distinguish harmless hearth smoke from danger. Anxiety becomes background noise. Children are taught early, fear fire, but use it anyway. Fire warms and kills with the same indifference. Great fires shape history. Entire districts vanish. Records are lost. Families disappear from memory. Urban layouts change slowly over centuries as rebuilding follows destruction. But most fires are small. One house, one block, enough to kill a few, displace dozens, ruin many lives quietly. And these smaller fires rarely make history. They are absorbed into daily life, like illness, like hunger, like cold. Fire also affects law. After fires, accusations fly. Was it an accident? Arson? Punishments can be severe. Executions happen based on suspicion alone. Fear seeks someone to blame. Yet most fires are simply accidents, inevitable in cities built from flame. You live knowing this. You live knowing that at any moment, a neighbor's mistake could become your death. That the walls meant to protect the city could trap you inside it. That the fire keeping you warm tonight might be the reason you have no home tomorrow. Still, you light the candle. Because darkness is worse. And so, as night falls and hundreds of small flames flicker behind wooden walls, as the city breathes smoke and heat, you lie down and hope, quietly, that no spark will choose this night to grow hungry. Dirt, waste, and smell, hygiene is a forgotten idea, living inside what could not be escaped. You smell it before you understand it. In medieval life, dirt is not something you remove. It is something you live inside. Cleanliness, as you know it, does not exist as a goal. There is no shared idea that dirt causes disease. There is no routine of daily washing. There is only what is practical, possible, and necessary, and hygiene rarely qualifies as any of these. Your body carries the marks of work. Sweat dries into clothing. Mud hardens on hems. Hands stay stained. Washing requires water, fuel, time, and effort. All of these are limited. Cleaning the body is lower priority than feeding it. Bathing does happen, but not often. In some towns, public bathhouses exist. They are social places, sometimes even luxurious by medieval standards. But they cost money. They require time away from work. And during outbreaks of disease, they are avoided, believed to open pores and invite illness. Over time, many bathhouses close. For most people, washing means rinsing hands and face occasionally. Full body washing might happen a few times a year. Clothing is washed more often than bodies, but even that is infrequent. Soap exists, but it is harsh and expensive. Ash and fat mixtures irritate skin. People tolerate grime because removing it hurts. Hair is rarely washed. Lice are common. Scratching becomes constant, almost unconscious. Children grow up assuming itching is normal. Teeth are not brushed. Food particles remain. Gums swell. Breath smells. Toothaches are intense and untreated. Extraction is the only solution, and it is brutal. Now add waste. Human waste disposal is simple. Get it away from where you sleep. That is the only rule. Chamber pots are used at night. In the morning, contents are emptied, often into the street, into ditches, or into rivers. In cities, cries of warning may precede dumping. Sometimes not. Streets become channels of filth. Rain washes waste downhill. It collects in low areas. It seeps into wells. It dries and becomes dust. People breathe it. Animals contribute constantly. Horses, pigs, dogs roam freely. Their waste mixes with human waste. There is no separation. In poorer districts, latrines are shallow pits. They overflow easily. Smell is constant. In summer, flies multiply. They move from waste to food without pause. Food is prepared nearby. Markets are crowded. Meat hangs unrefrigerated. Blood drips onto dirt streets. Fish rots quickly. Vegetables are rinsed with questionable water. No one questions this. Smell becomes background. People stop noticing it consciously. The human mind adapts. Only outsiders comment. Travelers write about the stench of cities. Locals shrug. But smell matters, even if misunderstood. Bad smells are blamed for disease. Miasma theory dominates. Rotting matter is feared, not because it contains germs, but because it smells wrong. So people focus on covering smells, not removing causes. Herbs are hung. Incense is burned. Streets are sprinkled with flowers during festivals. None of this improves sanitation. Waste management exists in fragments. Some cities employ scavengers to remove refuse. Some have designated dumping areas. But systems are inconsistent. Enforcement is weak. In rural areas, waste is closer but more spread out. Fields absorb much of it. This reduces concentration but increases contamination of water sources. You step carefully. Streets are slippery. Injuries happen from falls onto filth-covered ground. Wounds become infected easily. Children play in dirt because there is nowhere else to play. They put dirty hands in their mouths. They get sick. Many do not survive. Illness becomes seasonal. Summer brings flies and diarrhea. Winter traps filth under snow, only to release it during thaw. The cycle repeats. Clothing absorbs smells. Wool holds odor. Linen stiffens with dirt. Washing requires boiling water and beating fabric against rocks. This damages clothes. So washing is spaced out to preserve garments. People smell like smoke, sweat, animals, and waste. Perfumes exist, but only for the wealthy. Even then, they mask rather than cleanse. The concept of invisible contamination does not exist. So people do not wash hands before eating. They do not clean wounds properly. They reuse bandages. They share beds during illness. Disease spreads easily, but silently. Bodies become carriers without knowing it. And yet, people survive. Not comfortably, not cleanly. But survival does not require comfort. It requires adaptation. Humans are remarkably adaptable to filth. They build tolerance. They normalize sickness. They accept loss. Hygiene, as an idea, is not forgotten because it was once known. It is forgotten because it was never fully understood. Only centuries later will the connection between dirt and disease become clear. Only then will habits change. Only then will water, waste, and cleanliness be redesigned together. But here, in this moment, you live surrounded by smells you no longer notice, dangers you cannot see, and habits you do not question. You eat, you work, you sleep. Law without mercy, punishment for small mistakes. When order mattered more than life. You learn the law early, not by reading it, but by watching what happens to others. In medieval life, law is not gentle. It is not designed to rehabilitate, explain, or forgive. Its purpose is simple: maintain order. Whether you survive that process is secondary. Justice is public. Punishment is meant to be seen, remembered, and feared. Most people do not understand the law in detail. Laws vary by region, lord, town, and even season. What is permitted in one place may be punished in another. Written law exists, but it is inaccessible to most. You rely on custom, remorse, and observation. Mistakes are easy. You might gather firewood from the wrong forest, fish from the wrong stream, sell goods at an unapproved price, speak disrespectfully to the wrong person, miss a tax payment by days, walk after curfew, wear clothing above your status. These are not crimes of violence. They are crimes of order. Punishments are severe because enforcement must be simple. Investigations are limited. Evidence is unreliable. So the system relies on fear to discourage disobedience. Fines are common, but fines hurt the poor more than the wealthy. Failure to pay leads to confiscation of goods, imprisonment, or corporal punishment. Prison is not a sentence. It is a holding place. Cells are dark, damp, overcrowded. Food is scarce. Disease spreads quickly. Many die awaiting trial. Trials are brief. Judges rely on testimony, reputation, and status. If you are known as troublesome, your word matters less. If your accuser is powerful, the outcome is likely decided before you speak. Truth is flexible. Authority is not. Some crimes are punished with humiliation. Stocks and pillories hold offenders in public view. People refuse. Children mock. Injuries occur. Exposure lasts hours or days. Cold, heat, and dehydration do the rest. The punishment lingers beyond release. Reputation is damaged. Work becomes harder to find. Social trust erodes. More serious offenses lead to physical punishment. Whipping tears skin and muscle. Scars remain for life. Branding marks criminals permanently, making reintegration nearly impossible. Mutilation, cutting off ears, hands, or fingers, is legal for theft in some regions. These punishments do not end crime. They mark bodies as warnings. Capital punishment is common. Theft, especially repeated or during famine, can lead to hanging. So can poaching, heresy, counterfeiting, or rebellion. Execution methods are brutal but efficient. Death must be memorable. Executions are public events. Crowds gather. Vendors sell food. Children watch. The lesson is clear. The law is stronger than the individual. Mistakes can be fatal. There is little room for intent. Hunger is not a defense. Desperation is not mitigation. Survival instincts are irrelevant. Law protects property first. Order second. Life third. Women face particular vulnerability. Accusations of adultery, witchcraft, or moral disorder can ruin lives. Evidence is often circumstantial. Reputation carries enormous weight. Once suspicion settles, escape is rare. Men are punished publicly. Women are punished socially, and sometimes lethally. Justice is uneven. Nobles are judged differently. Clergy are tried in church courts. Wealth buys leniency. Influence bends outcomes. The poor absorb the harshest penalties. This is understood. It is not protested openly. Challenging the law is itself a crime. Fear maintains compliance. Law also governs daily behavior. Market regulations control prices and weights. Guild rules restrict who may work and how. Travel requires permission in some regions. Movement is watched. You live carefully. You watch your words. You avoid conflict. You keep your head down. But accidents happen. A tool breaks and injures someone. A child wanders into restricted land. A fire spreads beyond control. Blame must land somewhere. Sometimes it lands on you. And once the law turns its attention to you, mercy is not guaranteed. There is no appeals process as you know it. No presumption of innocence. Confessions are extracted under pressure. Torture is accepted in some systems as a means of truth. Pain becomes evidence. Yet, the law is not chaos. It provides structure. It keeps violence contained. It allows trade, property, and authority to function. People rely on it, even fear it. Without law, life would be worse. But with law enforced this way, survival requires constant caution. You do not ask whether a rule is fair. You ask whether breaking it is survivable. War without escape. When armies passed through. When war came to you, not the other way around. You do not choose war. War arrives anyway. In medieval life, war is not something that happens far away, between armies you never see. It moves through your land slowly, deliberately, and without concern for those who live there. You are not a soldier. You may not even understand the cause. That does not matter. When armies pass through, survival becomes uncertain overnight. Most wars are not fought in neat battles between equal forces. They are long, grinding movements of men, animals, and supplies. Armies do not carry enough food. They live off the land. Your land. When soldiers approach, there is rarely warning. A remor arrives first, then refugees, then the sound, boots, carts, animals, metal. By the time you see banners, it is already too late to leave. Cities may close gates. Villages cannot. Fields are trampled. Crops destroyed before harvest. Stored grain is seized. Livestock is taken or slaughtered. What is not taken is often ruined out of spite or haste. This is not cruelty in the soldier's mind. It is logistics. An army that does not eat dissolves. Commanders allow plunder because discipline requires reward. Even unpaid soldiers expect compensation in food and goods. You are compensation. If you resist, punishment is immediate. Beatings, execution, arson. Resistance marks you as an example. Others learn quickly. So you comply. You hand over grain meant to last winter. You watch animals driven away. You say nothing. Women are especially vulnerable. Sexual violence is widespread and rarely punished. It is treated as a consequence of war, not a crime. Families hide daughters and wives if they can. Many cannot. Children suffer differently. They are hungry faster. They are trampled in chaos. Some are taken, pressed into service, forced to march, absorbed into armies as laborers or future soldiers. Homes are occupied. Soldiers sleep where they can. Fires are lit carelessly. Houses burn. Wells are fouled. Disease follows armies as reliably as banners. Typhus, dysentery, plague, illness spreads through camps and into villages. Even after armies leave, sickness remains. War does not end when soldiers depart. Taxation increases to fund campaigns. Lords demand more grain to replenish stores. Men are conscripted. Labor shortages grow. Fields go untilled. Hunger follows. Neutrality does not protect you. Armies on both sides plunder the same land. Loyalty is irrelevant. Geography decides your fate. Some villages are passed over. Others are destroyed entirely. There is no pattern you can rely on. You learn to hide what you can. Grain buried in pits. Tools concealed. Livestock driven into forests. These strategies sometimes work. Often they fail. And hiding carries risk. Discovery can bring harsher punishment. War also changes law. Normal protections are suspended. Soldiers act with authority. Complaints are meaningless. Justice belongs to whoever holds weapons. You may survive the first passage. But wars rarely involve only one. Armies move back and forth. Seasons change. Each return strips more away. Eventually, nothing remains worth taking. That is when famine begins. People abandon villages. They wander in search of safety. Many die on the road. Those who remain endure quietly. Historical records focus on battles and treaties. They name kings and dates. They rarely describe what happens in between. But most suffering happens there. In the passing through. For civilians, war is not glory or strategy. It is fear, loss, hunger, and uncertainty stretched over years. It breaks routines. It erodes trust. It teaches people to expect disaster. Even when peace is declared, recovery is slow. Fields need replanting. Animals need breeding. Houses need rebuilding. Many never return. Entire regions thin out. Populations decline. Landscapes change. And those who lived through it remember. They teach children to fear soldiers, not honor them. They associate uniforms with hunger, not protection. So when you hear distant news of conflict, you do not ask who is right. You ask only one thing. Will they come this way? And as rumors grow louder, as roads fill with strangers and supplies vanish faster than expected, you wait, knowing that if armies pass through your life, there may be nothing left afterward to return to. Childhood without protection, growing up too fast. When childhood was brief and fragile. You are not protected because you are young. You are needed because you are young. In medieval life, childhood is not a long, sheltered stage. It is a short transition between helplessness and usefulness. Survival demands it. Families cannot afford idle years. Every body must contribute as soon as it can. From the moment you can walk steadily, expectations begin. At first, they are small. Watching siblings, carrying light objects, feeding animals, fetching water in small containers. But these tasks grow quickly. By the time you are 6 or 7, you are working every day in some capacity. No one asks whether this is too much. Strength develops early because it must. Muscles harden. Skin toughens. Pain becomes familiar. You learn to fall without crying, because crying does not stop work. Play exists, but it is woven into labor. Games involve imitation, plowing with sticks, pretending to bake, mock fighting. These are rehearsals, not escapes. Education is rare. Some children learn letters through the church, but most do not. Literacy is not essential for survival. Skill is. Memory is. Observation matters more than reading. So you learn by watching adults closely. How to lift without wasting effort. How to recognize weather changes. How to move animals safely. How to avoid punishment. Mistakes are costly. A dropped tool breaks. A spilled bucket wastes time and energy. A wrong decision can bring injury or anger. Children are corrected quickly, sometimes harshly. Patience is a luxury. You are expected to understand risk early. Fire burns. Animals kick. Tools cut. There are no safety barriers. No warnings beyond experience. Many children are injured. Some are permanently disabled. There is no special care for injured children. If you can still work, you do. If you cannot, your future becomes uncertain. Illness takes children often. Their bodies are smaller, weaker, less resilient. Fevers kill quickly. Diarrhea dehydrates fast. Infections spread easily in crowded homes. Parents love their children, but love is cautious. Too much attachment invites grief. Many families lose multiple children. They mourn, but life continues. There is always work waiting. This does not mean children are unloved. It means love exists alongside expectation of loss. You are taught early not to cry loudly, not to complain, not to draw attention. Strength is praised. Quiet endurance is admired. Children who survive learn self-control fast. By adolescence, you are indistinguishable from adults in responsibility. You work full hours. You contribute food. You may be sent away to serve another household as an apprentice or servant. This is common. Leaving home young is normal. Children as young as 7 or 8 may live elsewhere. They sleep where told. They eat what is given. They obey. Abuse happens. Exploitation happens. There is little recourse. A child's word carries little weight against an adult's. Yet many endure. Girls face particular pressures. Domestic work intensifies. By early teens, marriage becomes possible. Bodies are not fully grown, but expectations arrive anyway. Pregnancy follows soon after marriage, bringing risk and pain early. Boys face physical strain, heavy labor, military service later. Injuries accumulate before adulthood is complete. There is no protected time to grow slowly. Emotionally, children adapt in different ways. Some become quiet observers. Others become hardened. Gentleness survives in pockets, shared jokes, small kindnesses, stories told by firelight. But innocence fades early. Children understand death. They attend funerals. They see siblings buried. They hear adults speak of loss casually. Death becomes familiar, not shocking. Fear exists, but it is controlled. You do not ask why life is this way. You assume it is normal. Only centuries later will childhood be reimagined as something to protect, extend, and preserve. Here, it is something you pass through quickly, if you pass through at all. And as you grow stronger and more capable, carrying burdens meant for older bodies, you may not notice what you have lost until much later. If ever. So pause here. Imagine growing up knowing that protection is not guaranteed, that mistakes carry adult consequences, and that your value increases only as your usefulness does. Travel that killed, roads, robbers, and exposure. Leaving home was the first risk. You do not travel because you want to. You travel because you must. In medieval life, staying in one place is safer than moving. Familiar ground means known dangers. Roads mean uncertainty. And yet, people travel constantly, out of necessity, not curiosity. Markets demand it. Lords demand it. Hunger demands it. The moment you leave your village, protection thins. Roads are not roads as you know them. They are dirt tracks worn into the land by feet, carts, and animals. In dry weather they choke you with dust. In rain they dissolve into mud. In winter they freeze into rutted traps. There are no signs, no lighting, no regular maintenance. Bridges are rare and often unsafe. Rivers must be forded. People drown every year attempting crossings that look manageable. You walk most of the time. Horses are expensive. Carts break easily. Shoes wear out quickly. Blisters open and fester. Infection follows quietly. Distance is measured in days, not miles. And each day outside increases risk. Exposure is constant. You sleep outdoors or in crowded inns. Fields, barns, roadside shelters. Weather decides your comfort. Rain soaks you. Cold stiffens joints. Heat drains strength. You carry what you own on your back. Food is limited. Water sources are uncertain. Hunger sharpens quickly when travel is delayed. Illness spreads fast among travelers. Inns are dense with bodies. Fleas move freely. Coughs echo in shared rooms. You may arrive healthy and leave sick. Robbers know this. Highways are watched, not by guards, but by those who exploit them. Bandits hide near forests, bridges, and narrow passes. They target the weak, the slow, the alone. Violence is quick and efficient. Resistance invites death. Cooperation may still end badly. If you are robbed, survival becomes harder. Without tools, money, or food, return journeys may be impossible. Some die within sight of home. Law offers little protection here. Patrols are rare. Reporting crimes is dangerous. Witnesses disappear. Justice does not travel as far as thieves do. Women face additional danger. Sexual violence is common and rarely punished. Traveling alone is especially risky. But sometimes there is no choice. Merchants travel in groups when possible. Pilgrims cluster together. Strength comes from numbers. Still, groups slow movement and attract attention. Weather kills quietly. Storms trap travelers far from shelter. Snow hides paths. Floods isolate regions. People freeze within miles of safety. Others starve waiting for roads to reopen. Records mention travelers lost without detail. They vanish between destinations. Families never know what happened. Travel also carries social risk. You are a stranger everywhere you go. Hospitality is conditional. Suspicion is common. If you cannot explain yourself convincingly, doors close. If you linger, questions arise. Vagrancy is criminalized in many places. Being on the road too long marks you as dangerous. You can be arrested for traveling without purpose. And yet, movement is unavoidable. Peasants travel to markets. Craftsmen seek work. Messengers carry news. Students walk to distant schools. Pilgrims seek healing or forgiveness. Refugees flee famine and war. Every journey is a calculation. Is the risk of travel greater than the risk of staying? Often, it is not clear. Those who survive learn strategies. Travel by daylight. Avoid forests. Follow known routes. Stay with others. Hide valuables. Move quickly. Even then, survival depends on luck. Because roads are not neutral spaces. They expose you to every danger at once: weather, violence, illness, exhaustion. And when something goes wrong, there is no rescue. No one is coming. So when you step onto the road, pack thin supplies, and look back at the place you know, you understand something clearly. Travel does not promise arrival. It only promises risk. And as the village disappears behind you and the path narrows ahead, you may ask yourself, not once, but many times. Faith and fear, living under constant judgment. When God watched everything. You are never alone. Not truly. In medieval life, faith is not something you practice once a week. It is the air you breathe, the structure of time, the explanation for everything you cannot control. God is present in every moment, watching, judging, recording. This belief does not comfort everyone. For many, it frightens. From the time you can understand words, you are taught that nothing is hidden. Thoughts matter. Intentions matter. Doubt matters. Even silence can be suspicious. God sees what people do not. The Church organizes life completely. Days follow prayer hours. Weeks revolve around holy days. The year is shaped by fasting, feasting, and remembrance. Bells tell you when to wake, work, pray, and mourn. There is no separation between spiritual life and daily survival. Illness, famine, war, fire, these are not random. They are messages. Punishment, testing, warning. When things go wrong, people ask not, how, but, why? What sin caused this? You grow up hearing sermons that describe hell in detail. Fire, pain, eternity. Heaven is distant and uncertain. Hell is vivid and close. Salvation is not guaranteed. Faith must be demonstrated constantly. Through obedience. Through ritual. Through submission. Missing Mass is dangerous, not just socially, but spiritually. Failing to fast properly matters. Questioning authority matters. Confession becomes routine. You confess not only actions but thoughts. Envy, anger, doubt. You search yourself for sins you may not even understand. Priests guide you, but they also judge. Penance follows. Prayer, fasting, self-denial. This creates discipline, but also anxiety. Because how do you know if you have done enough? Illness complicates everything. If you fall sick, it may be a test, or punishment. Recovery is a sign of grace. Death suggests unresolved sin. Families replay final days endlessly, wondering what was missed. This belief shapes care. People pray more than they intervene medically. They accept suffering with resignation. Resistance can be seen as lack of faith. Fear becomes internal. You watch your behavior not just for social consequences, but eternal ones. You avoid blasphemy. You suppress anger. You accept injustice because rebellion risks damnation. At the same time, faith provides meaning. Without it, life's suffering would be unbearable. Faith explains why children die, why crops fail, why good people suffer. It promises balance beyond this life. But that promise comes at a cost. Doubt is dangerous. Those who question openly are suspect. Heresy is not just disagreement, it is contagion. Ideas spread. Authority weakens. Order collapses. So heresy is punished harshly. Trials are public. Confessions are extracted. Executions are justified as protection for the faithful. Fear reinforces belief. Ordinary people participate. They report neighbors. They avoid association with the accused. Survival requires conformity. Women are especially vulnerable. Faith defines moral behavior tightly. Deviations, independence, knowledge of herbs, refusal to submit, can be reframed as spiritual threat. Witchcraft accusations emerge from fear, not evidence. Once accused, escape is rare. Children absorb this atmosphere early. They learn prayers before they learn numbers. They fear God before they understand Him. Stories of saints mix with stories of sinners burned or broken. Faith becomes inseparable from fear. And yet, faith also sustains. It creates community, shared rituals, shared hope. In times of disaster, prayer brings people together. In grief, belief offers structure. People endure unimaginable hardship because they believe it matters. That endurance shapes history. But pause here. Imagine living every day knowing that your suffering might be deserved, that your thoughts might condemn you, and that silence from heaven could mean either patience or rejection. Famine years, when nothing came back. The year the land went silent. You notice it first in small ways. The bread is thinner. The grain sack feels lighter than it should. The market stalls close earlier, and no one explains why. In medieval life, famine does not arrive suddenly. It creeps in, quietly, disguised as inconvenience. A late rain, an early frost, too much heat, too little sun. One bad harvest does not always mean disaster, but it starts a clock. And once that clock begins, stopping it is almost impossible. Fields fail for many reasons. Weather turns against you. Rain rots seed in the ground. Drought hardens soil until nothing takes root. Frost kills young shoots overnight. Insects arrive in numbers no one has seen before. Plant disease spreads invisibly. You do everything right and still lose everything. Grain stores are meant to cover gaps, not collapse. They assume a normal cycle: harvest, storage, consumption, renewal. When the harvest fails, the system eats itself. You open the stores earlier than planned. You ration carefully. You hope next season will repair the damage. But hope does not grow food. Prices rise immediately. Grain becomes currency. The wealthy buy early and hoard. The poor wait too long. By the time desperation sets in, nothing affordable remains. Bread disappears first from the poorest tables. Meals become simpler. One meal a day, then none. Children are fed first. Adults lie about eating elsewhere. Elderly eat last, or not at all. This is not chaos. It is quiet organization. Famine is disciplined. You stretch food by grinding grain finer, baking smaller loaves, adding fillers, peas, beans, grass seeds, bark. Bread becomes barely bread. It fills the stomach but provides little strength. Bodies weaken slowly. Work continues at first, but hunger dulls movement. Tools feel heavier. Mistakes increase. Injuries rise. Fields suffer further neglect. This makes the next harvest worse. Famine feeds on itself. As hunger deepens, disease follows. Malnutrition weakens immune systems. Infections that were once survivable become deadly. Diarrhea spreads. Fevers linger. Children stop growing. People begin to leave. Some travel to cities, believing food will be available there. Often, it is not. Cities depend on surrounding land. When countryside fails, cities starve faster due to density. Others wander between villages, begging. Many are turned away. Hospitality has limits. Fear grows. Law changes during famine. Theft increases. Punishments grow harsher. Authorities try to maintain order through fear, not relief. Grain hoarders are sometimes punished publicly, but only when politically useful. Charity exists, but it cannot meet demand. Monasteries distribute food until their stores run out. Churches organize alms. Wealthy patrons give selectively. But famine is wider than generosity. Families begin to make impossible choices. Who eats today? Who works despite weakness? Who stays, who leaves? Children are sometimes sent away, to relatives, to service, to monasteries, anything to reduce mouths at home. Some never return. Animals are slaughtered early. Breeding stock is lost. Recovery becomes harder even if famine ends. People eat what they normally would not. Cats, dogs, birds. In extreme cases, historical records hint at cannibalism, not as horror, but as survival. These stories are whispered, not written. Death becomes common. Not dramatic death. Quiet death. People stop waking up. They lie down and do not rise. Bodies thin. Faces hollow. Strength drains away. Burials increase. Graveyards fill. Clergy cannot keep up. Sometimes bodies are buried hastily. Sometimes not at all. And still, people wait for rain. They watch the sky. They count days. They remember past famines and tell themselves survival is possible because it happened before. But every famine is different. Some last a season. Others last years. The worst famines reshape society. Populations drop. Labor shortages follow. Wages may rise later, but that is small comfort to the dead. When food finally returns, it does not heal immediately. Survivors are weakened. Children remain stunted. Fields take time to recover. Trust is damaged. Communities remember who helped and who did not. Famine leaves marks that outlast hunger. It changes behavior permanently. People hoard. They fear waste. They teach children never to assume abundance. Even in good years, famine is remembered. You carry it forward. So when you look at the empty fields, the thinned stores, the quiet roads, you understand something deeply unsettling. Famine is not only about food. It is about time running out, slowly, visibly, and without mercy. Old age was rare, the quiet vanishing of the elderly. Growing old was not expected. You do not plan for old age. In medieval life, reaching it is uncertain enough that preparing for it feels unnecessary, almost foolish. People do not imagine long retirement years, gradual slowing, or peaceful decline. Life is lived with the understanding that the body will fail early, often suddenly. If you grow old, you have already outlived expectations. Average life expectancy is low, but this number hides the truth. Many die young. Those who survive childhood can live into their 40s or 50s. A few reach their 60s. Very few go further. Old age exists, but it is uncommon. And because it is uncommon, it is poorly supported. There are no pensions, no savings systems for workers. No social institutions designed to care for aging bodies. Survival in later years depends almost entirely on family. If you have children who live nearby and remain healthy, you may be cared for. If not, your future is fragile. Work defines worth. As long as you can contribute, you are valued. Older adults adapt by shifting roles. Heavy labor becomes impossible, but lighter tasks remain. Watching children, repairing tools, giving advice, remembering boundaries and seasons. Knowledge is the elderly person's currency. Memory matters in a world without written records. Elders remember famines, floods, disputes, agreements. They are living archives. Villages rely on them quietly. But memory alone does not feed the body. As strength fades, dependence grows. Eating less becomes common, not always by choice, but by courtesy. Elders eat last. They sleep closer to drafts. They accept discomfort without complaint. Pain is constant. Joints swell. Backs bend. Teeth are gone. Chewing is difficult. Vision dims. Hearing fades. There are no aids. No pain relief beyond herbs or alcohol. Chronic illness is untreated. Arthritis cripples. Lung disease suffocates slowly. Infections are harder to survive. Recovery takes longer, if it happens at all. Winter is especially dangerous. Cold penetrates older bodies deeply. Fat reserves are low. Muscles no longer generate heat easily. One bad winter can be fatal, even without obvious illness. Deaths in old age are quiet. There is no sudden event. No clear cause. People simply weaken, sleep more, eat less, and eventually stop waking up. Records might note of old age, but this is not a diagnosis. It is an admission of ignorance. Social attitudes toward aging are complex. Elders are respected in theory. Wisdom is valued, but resources are scarce. When famine or crisis hits, priorities shift quickly. Children and workers are protected first. This is not cruelty. It is survival logic. Some elderly people are cared for with great tenderness. Others are neglected quietly. No one speaks openly about it. Shame and necessity coexist. There are no nursing homes. If an elder can no longer move easily, they remain where they are. Bedsores develop. Infections follow. Care is improvised. In monasteries, aging monks and nuns fare better. Communal support offers some stability. But this is rare and limited. Widows and widowers face particular risk. Without a spouse, survival depends on extended family. Some remarry quickly, not for romance, but security. Loneliness exists, but it is different from modern loneliness. People are rarely alone physically, but they may feel invisible as usefulness declines. Children grow into adults who remember elders only briefly. Few grow up with grandparents present long enough to form deep bonds. Generational overlap is limited. This shapes culture profoundly. Traditions change faster. Long-term planning is weaker. Memory stretches back only a few decades, not centuries. Old age does not anchor society the way it does later. And yet, those who reach it are resilient. They have survived famine, disease, war, labor, cold. Their bodies carry history in scars and stiffness. They speak less. They conserve energy. They know life is finite. So when you reach an age where others have already vanished, you move carefully. You do not expect help automatically. You do not demand comfort. You accept decline as natural. But pause here. Imagine living in a world where growing old is unusual, where most people you knew as a child are already gone, and where your continued existence feels like borrowed time. Death at home, how people actually died. The end came quietly, indoors. You do not die in a hospital. You die at home. In medieval life, death is not hidden behind curtains, machines, or schedules. It happens where you have always lived, on a straw mattress, near a cold hearth, surrounded by familiar walls and familiar smells. There is no ambulance to call. No ward to transfer you to. No specialist arriving with answers. Death comes into the room and stays. Most people do not die suddenly. They fade. Illness lingers for days, weeks, sometimes months. Pain grows slowly. Weakness spreads. Breathing becomes harder. Eating becomes tiring. You sleep more, speak less, listen more. Everyone around you recognizes the signs. They have seen this before. Family members adjust quietly. Work continues, but someone stays close. Food is softened. Water is offered more often. Prayers begin, not urgently at first, but steadily. There is no expectation of cure. When someone becomes seriously ill, the question is not, how do we save them, but how long do they have? Doctors may visit if available. More often, they do not. Their presence might bring comfort, but not solutions. Treatments are limited. Bloodletting may weaken you further. Herbs may dull pain slightly. Prayer fills the gaps medicine cannot. So care becomes practical. You are kept warm. Your position is adjusted. Sores are tended if possible. But there is no morphine. No antibiotics. No oxygen. Pain is endured, not eliminated. Children are not always shielded. They watch death happen. They are told to be quiet. They learn early what the end looks like. This knowledge becomes part of growing up. Deathbeds are communal spaces. Neighbors visit. Clergy arrive. Confession is heard. Final rites are given. Words are spoken carefully. Forgiveness is asked. Debts are acknowledged. Instructions are passed on. There is urgency, not to save life, but to settle it. People want to die correctly. A good death matters. It means being conscious, reconciled, confessed. Sudden death is feared not only for its pain, but because it interrupts spiritual preparation. So dying slowly is not always seen as cruel. It gives time. As the body weakens, senses change. Hearing often remains longest. People speak to you even when you no longer respond. They believe you can still hear. Often, they are right. Breathing becomes irregular. Long pauses frighten those watching. Then breath returns. This can go on for hours. Sometimes days. There is no machine to measure when death occurs. Someone simply notices the chest has stopped moving. Hands cool. The room goes quiet. And then, life resumes. The body remains in the house for a time. It is washed, dressed, positioned. Candles are lit. Family members sit with it. This is normal, familiar. Death does not require immediate removal. Burial follows soon, usually within a day or two. Preservation is minimal. Weather determines speed. Grief is present, but contained. People cry, but not endlessly. They cannot afford to stop functioning. Fields still need tending. Children still need feeding. Life presses forward. This does not mean loss is shallow. It means it is integrated. Death is not an interruption to life, it is part of it. People die from many causes. Fever, infection, injury, childbirth, hunger, cold, old age, but the setting is almost always the same. Home. This has consequences. Because death happens where people live, it is less frightening in some ways. It is known, expected, understood. There is less mystery. But there is also less escape. You cannot distance yourself from dying. You cannot avoid it. You will see it repeatedly throughout your life, siblings, parents, neighbors, friends. This familiarity shapes attitudes. People speak about death calmly. They prepare for it early. Wills are simple. Possessions are few. Attachment is careful. There is sadness, but not shock. Only certain deaths disrupt this pattern. Plague overwhelms homes. Too many die at once. Care breaks down. Bodies pile up. Ritual collapses. This is terrifying precisely because it breaks the normal rhythm. But outside those moments, death remains domestic, quiet, routine, and deeply personal. So imagine lying in the place you have always slept, hearing familiar voices around you, knowing there will be no sudden rescue, only presence. Survival by habit, how anyone lived at all. Living was not a skill, it was a routine. You do not survive because you are strong. You survive because you repeat yesterday correctly. In medieval life, survival is not the result of bold choices or clever plans. It comes from habit, small, learned behaviors repeated so often they stop feeling deliberate. People live not by thinking their way through danger, but by moving through it automatically. Habit keeps you alive when thinking would slow you down. You wake at the same time every day, not because of clocks, but because your body has learned the rhythm of light, sound, and work. You eat what is available, not what you want. You wear the same clothes until they fail completely. You walk familiar paths. You trust routines more than ideas. Routine reduces risk. People who experiment suffer more. New foods are dangerous. New routes invite trouble. New methods fail unexpectedly. Tradition is safer, not because it is perfect, but because it has already been tested by people who survived. Survival knowledge is practical and local. You know which stream to avoid in summer. Which field floods first. Which neighbor's well tastes wrong after rain. Which path stays firm in winter. Which days the market is safest. This knowledge is not written down. It is passed quietly, through watching, through correction, through stories told while working. Children absorb it without instruction. They are corrected when they err. Over time, they internalize thousands of small rules that keep them alive. Do not drink there. Do not walk that way at night. Do not eat that if it smells like this. Do not anger that man. Do not waste fuel in early winter. None of these rules feel dramatic. But breaking any one of them can be fatal. Survivors are not fearless. They are cautious by default. They do not take risks for curiosity. They avoid attention. They blend in. Standing out is dangerous. Habit also manages emotion. People do not panic easily, not because they are brave, but because panic wastes energy. Energy is survival. When disaster happens, people fall into action automatically. Carrying water, moving animals, salvaging tools. There is little time for despair. Grief exists, but it is contained by routine. After a death, tasks resume quickly. This is not heartlessness. It is necessity. Stopping means more death. Habit provides structure where control is limited. You cannot control weather, disease, war, or law. But you can control how you respond to them, by doing what you have always done. This creates resilience. People adapt to hunger by eating less without complaint. They adapt to cold by sleeping closer together. They adapt to illness by working around weakness. They adapt to loss by narrowing emotional attachment. This adaptation has a cost. Lives are narrower. Dreams are smaller. Expectations are low. But survival improves. Communities reinforce habits collectively. Deviations are discouraged. Gossip polices behavior. Shame corrects risk-taking. You learn quickly what not to do. Even faith becomes habitual. Prayer at set times. Rituals repeated. Confession regular. These provide comfort through familiarity, even when answers are absent. Habit replaces certainty. And slowly, over years, these habits accumulate into something remarkable. Despite everything, hunger, cold, disease, violence, most people do not die immediately. They live years. They raise children. They rebuild after disasters. They remember past failures and adjust behavior. Human beings adapt astonishingly well to harsh conditions when those conditions are stable. Medieval life is harsh, but it is consistently harsh. That consistency allows habit to work. What breaks survival is sudden change. Plague overwhelms habit. War disrupts routine. Famine removes predictability. Fire destroys known spaces. These moments kill many precisely because habits no longer apply. But in ordinary years, habit holds. People know how to live within limits. They know how to conserve strength. They know when to speak and when to stay silent. They know how to endure boredom, discomfort, and fear without needing relief. Modern life values choice. Medieval life values repetition. And repetition keeps people alive longer than chance ever could. So when you ask how anyone lived at all in such conditions, the answer is not courage, intelligence, or luck alone. It is habit. Thousands of small behaviors, learned early, repeated daily, rarely questioned. But this raises a deeper question. What we forget, why the past looks better than it was. The comfort of distance. You remember the past differently than it was lived. Everyone does. In medieval life, people did not romanticize their present. They endured it. They complained quietly. They adapted. They hoped the next season would be kinder. But centuries later, when you look back, something changes. The sharp edges dull. The suffering becomes abstract. What remains feels simpler, calmer, almost peaceful. This is not because life was better. It is because memory is selective. History remembers what survives. Stone churches remain. Manuscripts endure. Laws are written down. The routines of survival, the hunger, the smells, the pain, leave fewer traces. They vanish with bodies. So the past looks cleaner than it was. You imagine medieval villages as quiet places. Slow, pastoral. But quiet often meant hunger. Slow meant exhausting. Pastoral meant dependent on weather that could kill you. You imagine people closer to nature. And they were, but nature was not gentle. It froze, burned, flooded, starved, and sickened them regularly. There was no concept of outdoor leisure. Being outside was work, exposure, risk. You imagine strong faith as comfort. And sometimes it was. But it was also fear, constant self-surveillance, dread of judgment, terror of damnation. Belief gave meaning, but it also demanded obedience at a cost you rarely feel today. You imagine community as supportive. And it could be. Neighbors helped rebuild after fires. Shared labor eased burden. But community also watched, judged, excluded. Gossip destroyed lives. Conformity was enforced quietly and relentlessly. You imagine resilience as strength. And it was. But resilience often meant numbness. Accepting pain because resisting it changed nothing. Learning to lose without protest. These details are harder to preserve. Songs survive. Complaints do not. Architecture survives. Daily discomfort does not. Names of kings survive. Names of the exhausted, the hungry, the unnoticed do not. Even when records exist, they flatten experience. A famine becomes a statistic. A plague becomes a date. A war becomes a campaign. The years of fear between these events disappear. Time compresses suffering. Distance makes endurance look like contentment. Another thing you forget is comparison. Medieval people did not compare their lives to modern ones. They compared them to last year, or their neighbors, or the stories of worse times. If this year was not as bad as the famine before, it felt like improvement. Progress was measured in survival, not comfort. You forget how much energy it took just to stay alive. How much thought went into food, fuel, weather, authority, illness. There was little space left for reflection. When people did reflect, they did so within narrow frameworks. Faith, duty, custom. Alternatives were hard to imagine because imagining them did not change reality. This makes the past look simpler. But simplicity born of limitation is not peace. You also forget the bodies. Most medieval bodies were in pain most of the time. Teeth rotted, backs ached, knees swelled, skin itched, infections lingered. This pain did not define life, it filled it. When pain is constant, it becomes invisible in memory. When pain is constant, it becomes invisible in memory. You forget the smells because words cannot carry them forward. You forget the noise of crowded rooms, the constant coughing, the animals indoors, the flies in summer. You forget how often people buried children. You forget how rarely people expected long lives. You forget how cautious love had to be when loss was common. And then there is nostalgia. Nostalgia is not memory. It is desire. It takes fragments of the past, craftsmanship, ritual, slowness, and separates them from the conditions that made them necessary. It imagines simplicity without scarcity. Community without surveillance. Faith without fear. It imagines people who were somehow more grounded, more whole. But they were not more whole. They were more constrained. They did not choose slowness. They endured it. They did not reject technology. It did not exist. They did not live lightly on the land. They lived at its mercy. This does not mean the past was meaningless or empty. It means it was hard in ways that do not translate easily across time. The danger of forgetting this is subtle. When you believe the past was better, you risk misunderstanding both past and present. You mistake endurance for preference. You confuse survival with satisfaction. And you overlook progress, not technological triumph, but the quiet gains: fewer children dying, less constant pain, less fear of hunger, more room to question authority without death. These gains are boring. They do not make good stories. So they are often ignored. Instead, the past becomes a backdrop for longing. But the people who lived there did not long to stay. They longed for relief. They longed for a winter that was not as cold, a harvest that was not as thin, a law that was not as harsh, a sickness that did not kill. They would not trade places with you. They would ask why you think their suffering was beautiful. And yet, there is something worth remembering. Not the hardship itself, but the adaptability. The way humans shape habits, communities, and meanings to survive environments that do not care about them. That ability remains. But it should not be mistaken for evidence that the past was kinder.